Good to see everybody. I think we're gonna get some more folks in. We'll just give it another minute or so, but it's always nice to see you all. I'm looking for new names. And is it Ankitha? Is that how I say your name?
Yeah, Ankita.
I did it. I so often don't do it well. Well, I'm super glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. And Keitha is going to be our featured speaker today. So it's great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here. Great to meet you all.
So, just for your benefit, normally we'll have folks from around the country, the experts that are kind of working in the space of national, tribal, climate, health, and data. And so a lot of times we'll get a lot of folks from California. That's because that's where Shasta and I are based. But we do get a lot of different agencies, institutions, service providers from around the country. So why don't we just go ahead and remind ourselves what we're here to do today? Gosh, we've been at this. This is our 22nd meeting. We've been at this for a while. We moved to bi-monthly, which is why the meetings I feel like got confusing for some. So when we come together, we've been coming together for a couple of years. We connect with national health and climate data experts to invite you to exchange knowledge on priority tribal adaptation and resilience data needs, share tools, practices, ideas, and lessons from the field, and explore opportunities to develop and scale up solutions to address tribal resilience data needs. So lots about how we can try to make the process easier for tribes from a data perspective. So as always, we're going to do some intros. So anybody else in here that's new that wants to say hello? I think everybody else has been here before. Yeah. Shasta, anything you want to say up front here?
What's up? I haven't been here in a while, so hello everybody. Thank you to Angie for keeping these meetings going. She's the data nerd, and I'm the beneficiary of said nerdiness. So I'm just here to listen for the most part today. Of course, I say that, and then I'll probably talk because that's what I do. So, but yes, thank you for being here.
Everybody else, if you could just put your name, organization, and location in the chat so we all remind ourselves who's here, who you are, or you can always do it in your, you can rename yourself as well. I'm Angie Hacker, and with Prosper Sustainably, lead consultant for the Tribal Climate Health Project. And the Tribal Climate Health Project is under Paul Abana Mission Indians, and that's how we're here, is through some BIA resources to do these meetings. What we like to do next is to do some member announcements and updates, and then we're going to go to our speaker, and then we'll talk to you a little bit about our upcoming summit, and that'll be it for today. So I hope everybody brought some announcements. I've got a few, but this space is really left open for anybody on our crew to share any relevant information. What's new? What are you hearing out there? What are you working on that's in the tribal resilience data space?
If I can say, I was just going to pick on you, Isabel. Can you tell us about what you put in the chat?
Oh, yes. I just was at the seminar that the census put on. And it's a lot of about their data products, how they produce them, how they do data de-identification, which is pretty relevant to this particular meeting. There's also a number of AIN tables that have been produced, and they talk a lot about their expansion of all types of modifications to expand the race, ethnicity, tabulation of people to be more inclusive, and then they share that data as it is appropriate. So I dropped in a link for the selected population tables and the AIN tables, and then also the slides that they presented, which is on the whole shebang. And they have more links in their press release, which I think will be dropping on the 21st of September, if I recall from that. That's it. So since it was so topical, I just wanted to send it off now to you guys. Also, APHA is coming up, the Public Health Association meeting conference, and I'm going to be presenting on our tribal health and well-being dashboard and the accompanying brief. So if anybody's going to be at APHA, come say hi so I can see you in person.
I haven't been to an APHA in years. I should probably try to get myself back in the loop. And just so everybody, if you forget, Isabel's with the County of San Diego and
Yes,
with the Public Health Department.
I should have said that. Oh, and Hannah Marquez, who just joined us, also, key person on this health and well-being thing. She pretty much made the gloriousness that is the dashboard. This is really a thing.
Well, when you're ready to share an update of it, let us know. We can always feature you here. And thank you for the information on the census. I love trying to find information in the census for tribes. And sometimes I'm successful and sometimes lost. Or I'm wishing there was more.
Can you just drop the link to the brief and the dashboard from our website on there? You got it, fine.
Okay. Who else? Other updates? Was anybody else at the climate adaptation or the California Adaptation Forum last month? Or was it last month? Something like that. Yeah, last month. I was there. Tribes were present. Some, maybe not as many as we'd like, but there was a lot of tribal talk there. We're doing a lot here in California. That's for sure. I think we're going to hear more about that a little bit later today. Also wanted to mention, I don't think I see anybody from OWEA on right now, but Laura and Walker, our friends at OWEA that are working on all the tools. They let me know that they are still working on their wildfire tool and they'll bring that back to us maybe next round, our next meeting in November. Right. Oh, Emma from OWEA. Oh, hi, Emma. That's right. I don't know if you have anything else from OWEA.
No, not really.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about our summit. Shaz, anything else from your corner of the world? You're all over the place doing tribal climate things.
Not that I can think of. I'm leaving after this meeting to drive down to San Diego for an open kind of listening session on California's 5th climate assessment. It's not just for tribes, but I want to go down there and
Good.
And be a part of that. I don't really feel like driving all the way down to nearly downtown San Diego, but I'll do it for the climate.
I'm so glad you're going. I just told Patricia that I was like, I think everybody's tied up with that UCSD thing today.
Stop, but this is, again, it's not just tribal. This is for all sorts of groups. So I will go. I have somebody else at Josh's UCSD sustainable energy thing. So, oh, did I'm looking in the chat. I presented something. I did. I don't even remember what I've done.
Yes,
so,
in fact, you
Chris,
did.
Thank you.
We have video proof.
Oh gosh, that was my evil twin.
So people can find the presentation and the video recordings in English and Spanish on our climate webpage.
Oh, good.
That was
We
great.
will snag that.
Yeah, so just quickly, it was a forum for the State Water Board in California. We had a panel of researchers that work on equity in climate and water. And then we had a panel of advocates from across California, including Shasta and others representing different groups statewide. And then we had a dialogue between the two on trying to help us form what we're calling the climate and racial equity strategy for the State Water Board in California.
Yes, I remember that now. Thank you.
Great.
Well, good. Yeah, we'll snag that. We can help distribute a little bit further as well with our network. Any other updates before we head into our speaker? Right, great. I think we might have, some people got kicked out and are coming back. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm really happy to introduce our speaker of today and keep is it Dodonari?
Yeah, Dodonari.
Dodonari, okay. Well, great. And so it was actually Patricia Kennedy, our friend that comes to these meetings regularly, but is busy in San Diego today, suggested that we hear about the vulnerable communities tool that OPR has recently, is it already released or is it in development?
No, still very much in development.
Okay, well, great. So we get to hear about that today. Do you want me to just hand over controls to you?
Yeah, I can share my screen and I have a couple slides I can go through.
All right, it's all yours. Thanks again for being here.
Okay, let me know if you all can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So just a little bit of context and intro. The Vulnerable Communities platform is a web hub currently in development by the Integrated Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Program, ICARP. And its goal is to identify the populations most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change in California and support these communities by making integrating equity and climate adaptation planning much more accessible. Go to the next slide here. So the motive for this platform is that although there is plenty of evidence about the unequal effects of climate-driven natural hazards in California, the state doesn't have any existing tool that holistically displays the data needed to identify a community's degree or the nature of climate vulnerability that a community has. So the VCP is basically intended to aid community practitioners and government in allocating resources and crafting climate resilience strategies more effectively. So the VCP will be a free, publicly available resource that is going to have 4 main features. And I'm going to walk you all through these features on our demo platform. But I would like to note before we get started that the demo has been built as a brainstorming tool for discussion and is not our final product. It's really kind of just a splashboard for people to view the ideas that we have for the platform and to contribute their own perspectives, have something to react to, basically. So we're still really early in the development process and are just soliciting input to shape the final product. So you can see the link to the, the link to the beta here, and you can check it out if you'd like. I can put the link in the chat, but I'll also just be pulling it up here. So all the main functions are displayed across this header here. So the first one I'd like to walk you all through is the displays of the different climate hazards. So we have extreme heat, coastal and inland flooding, wildfire, and then all hazards on one tab here. So I'll go to extreme heat here, and you can open up this map. So on this map, you can see the actual climate hazard data. Right now, we just have a heat wave frequency, heat wave hazard risk score from the National Risk Index as kind of a proxy for extreme heat. And we have all of these indicators of social vulnerability that are very important to consider along with extreme heat specifically. So these are all of these intersecting social, economic, health, built environment factors that are exacerbating this climate vulnerability. So since this is extreme heat, we have air quality. You can look at the intersection of air quality and heat. There's also income on here. You can see outdoor workers. So basically it allows you to see where all these different factors are intersecting and where the greatest impacts are for the factors that you specifically are interested in. So the final platform will have a couple more features. It'll give you some guidance on the relevance of each factor. You know, why is it important to know about air quality in terms of extreme heat risk? Or it'll also let you, actually isolate where, where the most vulnerable communities are and, looking at why. So that is the first main planned feature. The second one that I'll go into is basically our display of on-the-ground community experiences, conditions, and assets that are going to be hosted in kind of this almost story map case study viewer. So what this will look like is you can see all these different areas that we've done this very on-the-ground kind of assessment for. And how we're going to capture this information is by hosting workshops in communities with specific vulnerabilities that are not well captured in the quantitative data, like in the climate risk viewer that I had just shown, in partnership with a local community organization. So participants will use the VCP to assess their risk to different climate hazards and provide feedback on the usability of the tool, but they'll also share their experiences with the climate challenges they have faced, they continue to face, and identify the physical, natural, and social assets in their community that have helped to protect them. After the workshops, the VCP team will work with the partner community organization to provide guidance on the available resources, assistance, and grants that could be useful to implement any actions identified by the community in the workshop as being useful to building resilience. So the purpose is kind of twofold here. One, to get feedback on the VCP, on the different functions that we have and the data, but also to actually document what's not being captured in the VCP, the actual on-the-ground experiences, like I said, and really leverage the VCP as a tool for building resilience. So that's the second planned feature. The third one and the fourth one are a little bit more on the lighter side. I would say they're kind of ancillary functions. So third one here is a collection of existing climate vulnerability related topic specific tools. So I'll show you all what that looks like here. So these are all different existing tools that people have been using in the climate vulnerability space. So for example, CalEnviroScreen, the Healthy Places Index, the California Heat Assessment Tool. So all of these different tools, you'd normally have to go onto their platform to be able to view them and use them. But what we want to do is to provide guidance on the use of each of these tools. In what case should I be using the Healthy Places Index or versus CalEnviroScreen or anything else? And it really allows you to compare and contrast these tools for any communities that you're interested in. So, maybe for a specific community, we're not seeing it be very vulnerable in terms of its CalEnviroScreen score, but if you look on the Healthy Places Index, maybe there are some other factors that are being better highlighted there. So this is really just our collection of all the existing tools. And the last function here is our resource springboard. So what this is a selection of different climate vulnerability related resources. So we have, summaries of different policies, all the different policies that have been influencing action in climate adaptation. We have some information about different planning documents and where you can find them. So for example, adaptation plans and climate action plans, those are tracked in these different portals. You can get some guidance on different regional groups that exist in your area, different funding sources. There are definitely so many places to look for grant sources and technical assistance opportunities. So I will stop here. Are there any questions on any of the features? I know that was a lot of information.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, but my brain is processing. Yeah, I have 10,000 questions, but I want to open it to anybody else.
I have a question. It was just something I glimpsed, so I wasn't sure that I was seeing it. Can you go back to the list of the different layers that you have for the different indexes and so forth?
Yeah.
No, that's not the one I meant. It was the one that when you had Tal and Firo screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the different tools.
Yeah, yeah. There it is. Oh, I see. Okay, it was socioeconomic. I always thought there might be something on the actual economics of climate change as an impact. So I got very excited because I don't see that very often, and I often wonder what is that? How is that being measured, and is that in any way?
Oh, the economics impacts of climate change?
Like how much is it going to cost? Not just to build infrastructure, like on a broad basis. I know that the NIS is having like various webinars and stuff around macroeconomics of climate change and so forth. I'm just wondering whether anyone has really looked at not just like, oh, are you low income, but how much do the changes cost people in different sectors? This is a big ask. I know this is a big ask. It's just something like, gee, who's doing that? Other than maybe at the global level where they look at, the WHO looks at stuff, or the World Bank.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'll look into that to see if I can find some more data. I think you're the first person who's brought that up to me as something that people would be interested in on seeing
I
them.
kind of wonder if there would be more sometimes if there were more traction. For example, when you're looking at heat, if you look at all the people, it's like, okay, they're really all not huge numbers of deaths. There are when one is too much, but people get excited when you tell them, look at the impact on workers, on productivity, and then can you quantify that in some way? Because all of a sudden that has much more impact at a social and political level. Realize, oh, every time you're in the hospital, it's $50,000. Every time, what's your lost productivity do? Whatever climate related thing you might have. And what does that mean for infrastructure and failing to do stuff? What does it look like at a monetary level? Sort of jaded, but I think sometimes that's
Yeah, I believe I have seen that at the national scale before, but I haven't seen a more fine-grained analysis.
On this page too. Oh, I'm sorry, Isabel. Yeah. On this page too, I was noticing because we have Colleen from it helps, I think, with Healthy Places Index, right? I'm interested because I know Healthy Places Index has a bazillion data sets in it. Like when you click on this, what really are you showing? Is it the overall
Right, it's just the overall score that we have here right now.
So what is that showing? That's just like the index I guess it's the index, right? The overall relational value.
Right, just the overall index here. We do want to be linking out to all of these tools though, so people can actually go in and see all the different functionalities that are available on these tools. But right here, we're just having their most basic data.
And is there a relationship? What's the relationship with CalAdapt to this tool?
Yeah, so CalAdapt really is more targeted towards academics, I think, and researchers, providing the actual raw climate data for them. So I think that's mainly what CalAdapt has been in the past. We want this to be much more accessible for community practitioners. So it's making this data a lot easier to view and download. So that's kind of where I see the distinction. CalAdapt is really much more about the raw data, but CalAdapt is going through a redesign right now to make that platform a little bit more accessible as well. So the way I see it is the VCP is really your first stop if you don't really know what kind of data you want. It's a way to visualize all of this data very easily, but CalAdapt is kind of one step beyond that.
So cool. And I think my mind is blown because I really wasn't expecting the vulnerable communities platform to do it all for everybody. The name itself made me think it was going to be something else, but I feel like you could be any community and pull so many of your important indicators for your vulnerability assessment off of this.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess it makes sense. Vulnerable community. I just was thinking it was going to be it was going to specifically look at like population sensitivities. But no,
Right.
that's everything. Okay. Serena, I see your hand raised.
Thank you so much, Ankita, for this presentation, because we've been looking forward to this for a really, really long time. I agree with what you said about CalAdapt, but I think also the adaptation and resilience professionals would love for CalAdapt to be included in this, because what it does do is show projected outcomes for climate, and I think that that could be really helpful. And you're right, it is targeted towards research professionals, and it's pretty, I would say sometimes it's inaccessible in how it formats things and how it shows what the projected outcomes are going to be, but I think what I'm seeing here is helpful because it shows more present and historical, but projected is also something of interest, I think, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do want to have projected data on the final version of the VCP as well. Basically, we want to have, past historical data, present, and then projected, all available.
Yes. So you still
Sorry,
there?
I am still here. Thanks. I was finding that mute button. Yeah, I think that helped answer some of my questions about projected data and CalAdapt. And also, I'm part of the State Water Board. And we haven't, I think it was either last year or a couple of years ago, where we're having kind of regular meetings on VCP. And then I feel like we kind of stopped having meetings, interagency meetings on this. And so what do you see, what does OPR see moving forward now that you have this demo, like interactions? What state entities have you been working with?
Yeah, so we're thinking of a new model for the interagency technical working group. I believe that's probably what you've been a part of. So in the past, I believe there have just been these large convenings of all of the agencies coming together to, provide feedback and brainstorm. But moving forward, we'll be doing it very much more topic specifically. Like, for example, since you're part of the State Water Board, if we want to get feedback specifically on our flooding and sea level rise, all that data, we would just call those people into the room who are most knowledgeable about that kind of data, get feedback on, all of the different data, the way we're displaying it for that specific topic, and do that for each of the big pieces of data that we have on the platform, if that makes sense.
I think it does. And then another question is on drought. I'm not sure if I missed that part.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know drought is incredibly complex and not
Mhm.
easily mappable. But what has the conversation been around that?
Yeah, so I think drought is so unique in terms of a climate impact that, it's not necessarily just about how much rain we're getting on a yearly basis. It's really Oh, is someone? Okay.
Don't worry.
Yeah, so what it's really getting at in terms of the main impact, in my eyes, is water insecurity. So we do want to be representing that in the platform. And I don't believe we have that yet, but we do want to have a specific place on the tool for rural and smaller city issues. So that's really where we want to be focusing our efforts on drought-related data. basically getting at that water insecurity that really often happens in the smaller, the rural, unincorporated areas. So sorry, we don't have much data here right now, but that's definitely something we'd be adding in the future.
And maybe
Yeah.
my third and last question
Before we
is,
move off
oh,
drought
okay,
for a
go
sec, can I, oh, I'm sorry. Before we move off drought, just, that's been a really big, the water insecurity and the lack of groundwater accessible data. It's been a big issue, in our work with tribes around the state. And so I guess I'm just mentioning that because that's something we've been trying to figure out how to tackle or how to help with. And so I can provide any input I can on, what indicators we've tried to find and failed, or what tribes have been looking for but really can't access. I'm happy to do that. Sorry, Chris.
No, totally no problem. And kind of going to this last point and kind of what Isabel was talking about in terms of impact, how are you handling or trying to present vulnerability in terms of, amount of impact, which is often about population size or economics, versus vulnerability, which we can look at very small populations and seemingly statewide, looking just at a small economic impact, but it impacts those folks that could be considered most vulnerable. So we're trying to go back and forth on this. We work with small water suppliers in our kind of needs assessment and funding, but there are large impacts in larger populated areas as well. And so how are you thinking about handling that? I see with the rural and small city issues, you're trying to highlight these would seemingly statewide be a smaller impact, but these are more vulnerable areas. So is this the way that you're kind of trying to highlight these smaller populated, economically depressed areas?
Yeah, it really is. So, we know that we have a lot of good data for some of these very urban metropolitan areas. So we want to focus on those rural and smaller city issues, with their specific data being called out as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other questions?
You know what I thought might be useful? Could we, sometimes what we do in these meetings is we'll just kind of take a look at a tribal area on the tool and just kind of look at it from a user's perspective. Oftentimes we'll use Paula. So if you want to try searching for Paula Band of Mission Indians down in San Diego, we're just kind of dive in and let's query this tool and see what happens. I did see that you might have even you had some way to slice and dice by tribal lands.
I'm probably getting the spelling wrong. What is the spelling?
PALA.
Ah. It usually does show up. I've searched for several different tribes before, but maybe there's
Paula. The band might be confusing things. Paula, there's a town of Paula.
just put Paula. Just put Paula. If you put Paula Band, it's not going to show up.
And Lisa just joined
There it
us.
is.
Lisa, we're talking about your old project.
No sand. Just back up. Paula, California. You had Paula CA and that worked.
Oh,
there it is. Yay. I'm right there underneath that spot.
Nice.
So does it default to certain indicators?
Yeah, so these are just the ones that I have checked right now, but are there any that people are interested in? This is the heat wave frequency right now. But we can also put in any of these indicators.
I asked, if you go to the all hazards, do you have access to all the indicators?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, is there a function where you somehow get a visualization of maybe like, I don't know, the most important, like the most key vulnerabilities in any particular area? Like that would be a hard coding job.
Yeah, so what we want to do is since we have such a long list of layers here, you know, we've just been getting more and more suggestions of all the things that people think would be important to include. But we want to do is have just the 5 or 6 most important layers that are really getting at the key aspects of vulnerability on a kind of main map viewer, and then have everything else as something you can add in optionally. So right now we just have everything here, but definitely something we want to do in the future is prioritize to get the most important layers for just a first look.
Yeah, well, I imagine that varies from around the state too, but yeah, maybe you can click on tribal lands and that will probably try to draw a boundary around the reservation at least.
That was actually going to be my question, is which data set are they using for tribal lands? Is it the federal or California? Okay.
I believe this is California.
Okay. This is helpful.
So that's what we have for the boundary here, and here are all the different data layers. Anyone that people are particularly interested in? I know that wildfire is probably big around the area.
Yeah, sure.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
You're burning. Yeah.
I
So
am.
I mean,
Actually, it's nice today. I'm not burning today. It's only 73. What?
Wow.
yeah, weird, right?
Yeah. Let's see. You know what? The one that keeps poking out at my eyes is the percent of seniors over 65.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a huge one for wildfire, extreme heat, all of them really.
That's of course, when we've got the tribal lands on there, it's kind of harder to see with that green layer kind of smoking everything out.
Yeah, let me try turning that on.
Yeah. That helps a little bit. Yeah, I know that's not easy to do when you've got several layers on, but that actually would be helpful if you could more easily see what's happening. So maybe make some of those layers a little bit more transparent, or do them as outlines, like the tribal boundaries. Maybe an outline is better than having it be, a full, but I don't know. I'm not a GIS person, so I'm just going to leave that there.
I was gonna say, Ankitha, I thought if you go to tribal lands, I thought if you toggled on the right, you did have a transparency option. Can we try that?
Sure, yeah, I believe there should be one here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Perfect.
Cool.
Lisa, you still remember all this? Are you still actively involved in this project from Strategic Growth Council?
I am not. I have very, very full hands working on the Community Resilience Centers project, program. But Ankitha and I will chat on Monday, and I actually am about to shift roles again. So that was something I just wanted to like pop in here with. We can keep talking about this. I'll save it for the end.
Okay, I hope you're not going far. Okay, just in practice, like the way if I were to approach this as somebody who supports tribes actually doing their vulnerability assessment, like oftentimes the first question we need to ask is which exposures, and that's how the term I use, I think you use hazards, but which exposures are the biggest risk? So we want to like eliminate, if we can eliminate the things that are low risk.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to necessarily dive in and do all that analysis. But okay, so we're gonna, obviously we know wildfire, heat, drought, and inland flooding. Those are going to be big ones. And then from there are indicators that are, and I guess that's what you've done, indicators that are specific to each of those hazards. And then you just go to that separate tab. But like, how would you easily answer that first question? Your biggest exposures are these.
Yeah, so right now with this version of the map viewer, you kind of just click into the different layers and see which ones are popping up as higher risk. Like if I put in sea level rise here, I'm sure we would definitely not get risk at Paula. But basically in a future version, I have been hearing a lot of people saying they want some kind of summary generated for a specific area. If you could just kind of drag a boundary around an area that you're interested in, it would generate saying, these are your biggest risks, something like that. I definitely want to explore that possibility as well to make it as easy as possible to, identify your biggest risks.
Right. And then you have so much of the impact data in here too, that you could even just, if you knew how to code biggest exposures, you could potentially elevate up for their attention the biggest impacts too, related to that exposure. Oh, that would be powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see, somebody in here. Oh, Serena, do you want to say this out loud?
Yes, and I can also send the link to if people are interested in like the details of this data set. So it covers the external extent of federal Indian reservations and the external extent of associated land held in trust by the USA, et cetera, et cetera. You guys can read. But here's a link if you guys are interested in what exactly the tribal lands data set is saying and who it's representing or not.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
There's a couple other questions in the chat. Isabel's asking what is the hard to count index?
Yeah, so that is something that was developed for California when they were doing their big push out for the census. So it takes into account a lot of different factors and puts them together for the census to identify which areas they're getting which areas they might get a lower response rate from just, mailing out census applications and where they need to do more targeted outreach. So that was something developed for the census, but it's been used for different applications to find areas where it's harder to get communications out to. And they use a lot of different factors. Some are like main languages being spoken other than English, or the type of living situation, lots of different factors that are combined into that index. I think yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, the next question there, medium to high resolution data on current or future projections of drought.
Oh, that was more of a question when we were on drought. It was more of a question for Chris or anybody else that had maybe some more information.
Yeah, if anyone has good drought data sources, I'd love to hear more about that.
We've tried our best, and I don't know. I remember in the Lisa days, and when Juliet was in your department, had given over. We have a tool the Tribal Climate Health Project has developed, and it's just in Excel. It's called the Easy Tool, and what it doesn't do well is any of this visualization, but what it kind of does well is this, like, it's demonstrating the cascading effects. So like it's a relational inventory of exposures, secondary exposures, and impacts, along with potential data sets that are publicly available. So I can resend that over, and it does include drought, whatever we were able to find. So it's, it's suggestions for menus of different indicators and data sets for you to use. And also just the idea that, it helps to package these things under their cascading effects.
Yeah, we have the Easy Tool right now. I believe we got it from Patricia, but yeah, lots of great data there. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, and from the State Water Board, we are working on a drought monitoring platform or tool. It would take data from the water suppliers across California and give us some early warning on if the supplier is at risk or are they currently at risk. Right now, nothing is public. It's very at the beginning stages, but there was a presentation earlier this year at one of our board meetings. And so we're looking to, I'm not sure of the launch of a public facing platform, but we are looking at some sort of platform like that.
Okay, great. That's really great for me to keep in mind, I think, as we look for that kind of data.
Yeah, and in kind of partnership, I think, with the Department of Water Resources, we are working on a more comprehensive and more up-to-date, almost somewhat real-time platform and collecting of data from our water suppliers, at least the larger ones, and then in the future, possibly the smaller ones, in terms of, daily or regular water use data coming into the State Water Board.
Okay, yeah, that'll be really great to have that kind of continuously updated data, I think.
Yeah, so we could meet with the folks by the State Water Board that, are collecting that data in terms of drought and in drinking water, and then see if there's anything we can help with or share.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll reach out to you about that then.
Great. I'll put my email in here.
There are just so many tools. That's what our kind of biggest problem's always been. It's just every day there's something new. And for tribes that are under resourced, there's too many places to go. So like if this really is going to consolidate things for Californians, it will be a huge load off of everyone. My gosh.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that leads really well into some of the discussion questions I had. So I'm going to pull those up right now. Oh, where did my mouse go? Sorry, everyone. Just...
Don't worry. This is that an old hand up or a new hand up?
That was old. Let me lower my hand. Thanks.
Okay, should be now. Okay, so I'm just going to go over some of the engagement that we have planned and then what we're going to be doing in the next couple months. So right now I've been doing our expert user engagement. So there are some examples of that on the side here. We've been doing engagement through the 5th Assessment Regional Workshop. So the one that Patricia's at right now, the San Diego workshop, will be getting a rundown very similar to what I just did right now. And we've been collecting, feedback on the proposed functions that I walked you all through and advice for conducting the participatory mapping workshops that I mentioned, the case studies that'll be displayed on the platform, as well as our data priorities and other tools and resources that people can point us towards. So our next step beyond this sort of engagement with the regional groups, with different experts in climate areas, and all those people, will be our community lived experience engagement. So that's really going to be much more focused on the case studies, the pilots I mentioned, where we'll be partnering with local community organizations to perform these pilot climate vulnerability assessments that will be displayed on the VCP. So collect that information. Yeah.
Are you looking for tribal partners on that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that could be valuable if people are interested.
By the way, we're only looking at your cover slide. I'm not sure if you're trying to show something else.
Oh, it says my screen share is paused. Sorry about that.
Can I ask what your timeline is for those case studies?
Yeah, so we don't have an exact start date yet, but we'd like to get the case studies going in the later part of the year. So probably around October, November, December timeframe. And we want to get the a more final version of the platform rolled out in early 2024.
You know, we've got some BIA dollars to do what we normally do with tribes. So we would have 5 tribes. We're about to start another round of support for about 5 tribes around the state to do vulnerability data gathering for them based on our easy tool. But I'm wondering if there's some collaboration opportunity here where we can kind of also help test out this sucker and then we give you some really detailed feedback.
That would be great. Yeah, I can talk to you offline about that as well. We'd like to pilot the tool in the Southern California area. So we're picking a couple case studies to start with in Southern California. So if any tribes are interested in that area, I think that would be really valuable.
Yeah.
All right, so I do have a couple questions I wanted to walk through. I think we've touched on a lot of this already, but just kind of opening it up again. How can the VCP best serve tribes? How can we make this climate vulnerability data and resources on the VCP accessible and useful to tribes? Anyone have any thoughts on that they haven't shared already?
I'm going to put something in the chat here for you. It's the, have you seen the University of Washington climate tool?
No, I haven't.
It's for tribes specifically. One nice thing that they do is they've actually designated, you can just go to a drop down, find your tribe, and all of the, and the boundary is sort of cut for you. They did a lot of work to draw boundaries that are different based on the input of tribes because federal reservation does not necessarily encompass everything the tribe considers to be their land. But I'm going to send it anyways, just so you have an example. It's like, it's a way to lead. You're so, here's my boundary, cool, drop down, boom, here's all my stuff. It's like a summarized version of exposures and impacts. So let me just get that for you.
Oh, that's cool. So it lets you draw your own boundaries and it generates the report based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Anyone else on that one? Okay, here's that.
Okay, I think we can move on to the next one. So I also wanted to ask if people see there being an opportunity to collaborate with tribes in representing tribal specific climate change impacts through the VCP. So this could be TEKs. Sorry, my internet was cutting out. This could be TEKs or other tribal data. I know that there are a lot of perspectives and sensitivity around documenting this information. So I just wanted to gauge your interest, but make it clear that this is just a question and not something that we have already planned to proceed with.
If Shasta's still around, she usually has some insight here.
I have a mouthful of sandwich. Yes, I will say that I think this is important. Tribes at the moment are in a position of being inundated with requests to share their knowledge and data. And it doesn't mean that they're going to not want to participate, but there's a lot of anxiety right now about what that means. Data sovereignty is a concept that a lot of tribes are, concerned about. And just given the, the historical context of information gathering from tribes and how it's been used or misused in the past can make this a little bit of a barrier to overcome, which doesn't mean it can't be done. I just think that if it's going to be done, it's going to take a little bit of additional effort. I like this. I think this is great. I want to see this being in more use. I know the one from Washington. I was at a climate summit, climate camp in Washington last month, and they talked about this, and it's fantastic. So I think the more tribal input there is on this, probably the better. So I just say what the foregoing as to let you know that it can be a little bit of a lift, but it's worth pursuing. So I think between Angie and me and the relationships we already have with a lot of tribes, the tribal gap analysis and et cetera, this is certainly something that I think we should help you pursue.
Okay, yeah, that's really great to know. We definitely only want to pursue it if people think that it would be really valuable. So, you know, I think that's kind of the indication that I'm getting from you, is that this is something that would be valuable and important to include on this kind of platform.
Yeah, and you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I've got you on the spot. It would be great if you could come and present on this and the kind of data that tribes need at our summit that's happening in November. Here in Paula. Come to Paula.
In Paula, yeah, that would be really great. Yeah, send me the details of that, and yeah, definitely be interested.
Yeah, we'll have tribes from outside of California as well, but that was the same thing was true when I was up in Washington, and I think that this is also a useful thing for tribes from other states, so they can potentially go back to their home areas and say, look at what California is doing. We want to do something like this too. So yeah, see what I did there, Angie? I totally put her on the spot. Now she can't say no.
It's recorded too.
Luckily, my manager, Ben, is in San Diego, so he's very close by.
Okay, all right. Maybe we bring him too. It'll be a party. We'll just go out to one of the hot tubs and we'll talk about hot weather.
Yep.
You know, one thing I wanted to mention here, just making it valuable to tribes. The boundary has come up so many times here, but you know, tribes consistently want data that's specific to their lands. Sometimes the challenge is that the areas are so small that there's a lot of anonymization that has to happen, and you kind of lose. Things get filtered out because it's just too small. Have you experienced that a lot? And has that been a problem for small communities?
Yeah, definitely in the more rural areas with the giant census tracts, there is a lot of data that's being lost there. That is something we want to capture through these participatory mapping case studies. But there isn't a really great solution for doing that, you know, at a very large scale for all of these communities, you know, that are in these rural areas. So we're trying to fill that gap with the case studies, but yeah, definitely open to other suggestions on not losing that fine-grained level of analysis when you're looking at more rural areas.
Well, okay, so we're at noon. I want to say big thanks to Ankita. That was so great. And I really think there's more for Tribal Climate Health Project and OPR to talk about here, and really good collaboration opportunities. So let's chat. We've been talking with Patricia a lot, but maybe we talk about this too. Anyone else have any final things to say here? Lisa, I know you wanted to tell us something.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to take up space or time, but I'm actually thrilled that Ankita's here talking about the VCP and demoing the latest. And as folks here know, I've spent the last 1.5 years building the Community Resilience Center's grant program with Coral Abbott, who a lot of people know at SGC. Next Wednesday is going to be my last day, actually, with the state of California. So I'm feeling all of the things. Feel free to, you know, email me. We can squeeze in time before I transition out, or we can always talk after I leave this role. That might actually be an easier way to communicate with me. And so I'm a bit behind on emails, but I'll send in all the ways to contact me, things like that. And the next adventure is with the U.S. Department of Energy. So we should absolutely stay connected. I hope, if anything, it is an encouraging news for folks here. Like, we need to figure out how do we leverage and kind of open as many doors and move as many pots of money as possible. So like, I hope that is exciting, and let's absolutely stay connected. And thank you everyone for the work you do, and Angie and Shasta for convening these spaces. They've been so valuable.
Thanks. Lisa, are you joining SCEP? Yeah, I love that.
SCEP, yes.
We'll definitely talk.
Okay, great. Please do.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody. I hope you have a great next 2 months and we'll come back together in November.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.